The thunder rolled low and long over Manhattan, echoing off the glass towers like a warning. Rain tapped on the limousine's tinted windows as Sloane Vexley sat still, staring blankly ahead while her chauffeur waited for instructions. But for once, the next location on her calendar didn't matter. She tugged off her diamond-studded heels, threw on a gray hoodie, and slipped out of the back seat into the rain. No paparazzi, no security detail. Just her, walking aimlessly down the wet streets of Brooklyn, craving anonymity more than air. Sloane didn't know what she was looking for. Maybe it was peace, maybe truth, maybe just a moment that felt real. She found it on a side street. Dimly, lit and almost hidden, a tiny cafe called Clementine's. No marble counters, no curated playlists, no rich people pretending to be happy, just warmth, the smell of fresh coffee, and a waitress who was wiping down the front counter with the weariness of someone who'd survived too many long shifts and too many short paychecks. Sloane hesitated in the doorway. "Come in or stand there collecting rain," the waitress said without looking up. Sloane smiled faintly and stepped inside. "Coffee, please." The waitress, young, early 20s, sharp eyes under bangs the color of chestnut, looked up at her for the first time. "Sure. You want judgment-free silence or unexpected small talk?" Sloane blinked. "Is that a real menu option?" "It's tonight," the girl said, grinning. "I'm Remy, and you look like someone who's trying hard not to be recognized." Sloane's stomach dropped. "Do I?" Remy poured the coffee and slid it across the counter. "The oversized hoodie, sunglasses indoors, and the way you flinched when I said your name. Yeah, kinda gave it away." Sloane took off her glasses, revealing soft hazel eyes and a face too familiar to mistake. Remy's eyes widened just a little, but her voice didn't change. "You're Sloane Vexley." "I'm just Sloane tonight," she said softly, "if that's okay." Remy nodded. "Fair enough. You want to sit in the corner booth? It's got a great view of the dumpster out back." Sloane laughed, the sound catching her by surprise. "That's perfect." The cafe was nearly empty. Rain pattered against the window. A lamp flickered above as Sloane curled her hands around the chipped mug and sipped. Remy walked over and leaned against the booth across from her. "You ever get tired of it?" she asked. Sloane looked up. "Of what?" "Being someone you didn't choose to be." Sloane stared at her for a moment, stunned by how close the words landed. All the time. There was a long pause. The cafe clock ticked. The world outside stayed gray. Then Remy said it, casually but with something hard underneath. "My mom used to work for your family, a long time ago, back when you were just a baby." Sloane narrowed her eyes. "What was her name?" "Mara. Mara Reeves." Sloane frowned. That name, it felt familiar, like something buried in the walls of her memory. Remy continued, quieter now. "She was your nanny. Said she loved you like her own." Sloane leaned forward. "What happened to her?" "She disappeared." Remy's voice dropped. "Just vanished." "And your dad made sure no one ever asked why." Sloane's heart skipped. "That can't be true. We had nannies growing up, but none of them ever vanished." Remy gave a crooked smile. "Yeah, that's what I thought too, until I found her journal last year." Sloane felt her breath catch. Her fingers tightened around her mug. You have proof?" Remy nodded. "More than you'd think, but you wouldn't believe me unless you saw it for yourself." Sloane hesitated, her mind racing. She had grown up surrounded by power, wealth, and silence. Carter Vexley ruled their home like a god in a tailored suit, charming in public, cold and precise behind closed doors. He never spoke of the past. And her mother? Gone in a tragic car accident when Sloane was only 3. The memory of her face, blurred, her voice, forgotten. But now, In a corner cafe with a waitress named Remy, those cracks began to widen. "What are you saying?" Sloane asked, her voice low. Remy met her gaze, eyes unwavering. "I'm saying your father isn't the man you think he is, and you might not even know who you are." Sloane barely slept that night. She tossed under Egyptian cotton sheets in her $4.2 million penthouse, replaying Remy's words over and over. The next morning, she ditched her stylist, ignored her PR manager, and returned to the cafe. Hoodie. On again, this time with purpose. Remy was already there, waiting with a small black notebook in her hands. She slid it across the table. "My mom's journal. Start with page 32. Sloane opened the book. Sloane cried today when Carter yelled at Trina again. "She's too little to understand, but she feels it. I can't protect her forever, but I'll try." She flipped the pages faster, scribbled entries filled with love, fear, and secrets. "Trina told me today she's going to leave, said she can't live in fear anymore. Carter doesn't know. God help us when he finds out. I heard something last night, a phone call." Carter said, "Make sure the car takes the turn fast." My blood ran cold. Sloane's hands shook. Her throat tightened. Then the final entry. "If anything happens to me or to Trina, if this ever reaches Sloane, tell her to never trust her father. His money is soaked in lies and blood." Sloane closed the journal, eyes stinging. "This can't be real," she whispered. "It's just too much." Remy finished for her. Sloane looked up, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel like the richest girl in the room. She felt like a daughter who never really knew her mother. "What else do you have?" she asked. Remy's voice dropped. "A tape, one she recorded before she disappeared. She talks about your mom, about Carter. She names names." Sloane leaned in, her voice just above a whisper. "Why are you showing me this now?" Remy hesitated. "Because I think you deserve to know. And because my mom risked everything to protect you." Sloane's breath hitched. Remy added softly, "And maybe you're the only one left who can finish what she started." Sloane stepped back into the limousine that night, but everything felt different. The leather seats felt too cold, the skyline too hollow, the name Vexley too poisonous. She clutched the journal to her chest and stared out the window. Lightning flashed. And in that brief, blinding second, she caught her own reflection in the glass. For the first time in her life, Sloane Vexley didn't recognize the girl staring back. The cassette tape was old, dusty, cracked along the edges, with faint red ink. That spelled "For Sloane" in shaky letters. Remy slid it across the table with a gravity that pulled the air out of the room. "I found it hidden inside the baseboard of our old apartment," she whispered. "Wrapped in a scarf that smelled like her perfume. My mom meant for you to have it." Sloane stared at it like it was a ghost. She sat in the farthest booth of Clementine's, the cafe now closed to the public. Rain tapped the windows again, almost, like it had been waiting for this moment to return. "Do you want to hear it?" Remy asked gently. Sloane nodded, her throat too tight to speak. Remy brought over a battered cassette player and hit play. A click, a hiss, then a voice, soft, familiar, terrified. "If you're hearing this, it means I failed, and I'm so sorry." "Baby girl, I tried to protect you." Sloane froze. It was her mother. Even after all these years, the voice hit her like a wave. Faint, but unmistakable. A sound she hadn't heard since she was 3. "I know what Carter is. I should have left earlier, but I was scared. He found out I was planning to take you and disappear. I think he's going to do something to stop me." Sloane's hand flew to her mouth. "Mara, the nanny. She's been helping me. She's brave. But if anything happens to me, if this message makes it to you, Sloane, please believe me. He's not the father you think he is. And if he took me away from you, you deserve to know the truth." The tape crackled. Then silence. Remy turned it off. The room was so quiet, you could hear the hum of the fridge behind the counter. Sloane sat frozen, her fingers curled tightly around the edge of the table. She was going to run, she whispered. She was going to take me and escape. Remy nodded slowly, and he stopped her. The weight of those words crushed down on her chest. Sloane's entire life, every gala, every brand deal, every public smile had been built on a lie so devastating it made her skin crawl. Her father wasn't just a controlling man, he was a killer. She staggered to her feet, nearly knocking over the chair. "I have to go," she muttered, clutching the tape. "I need answers." The elevator opened to the top floor of Vexley Tower. Glass walls, million-dollar art, a fireplace that danced in sync with classical music. Home. But tonight, it felt like a stage built for a lie. Carter Vexley stood by the bar, swirling a glass of bourbon in one hand, his posture as poised as a painting. He turned when she entered. "Sloane, you skipped your Vogue shoot? That's not like you." She walked in slowly, like she was stepping into the lion's den. "Why didn't you ever tell me about Mara Reeves?" Carter paused, just a blink, a flicker of something behind the eyes. "She was a nanny," he said evenly. "She left. What's this about?" "She didn't leave," Sloane shot back. "She vanished, and Mom didn't die in an accident, did she?" Carter froze. The silence screamed. Sloane stepped closer. "She was going to leave you, take me with her, but you couldn't let that happen, could you?" He set the glass down. "Where is this coming from?" "I heard her voice," Sloane said. Her eyes burned with rage. "I heard Mom's voice on a tape. She was afraid of you. She knew you'd come after her." Carter's jaw clenched. "You've been talking to people who want to destroy this family?" She laughed, a hollow, broken sound. "You are the destruction." He stepped forward. "Listen to me." "No, you listen," she said, her voice shaking but fierce. "You built an empire on blood. You've lied to me my whole life. You made me pose with the portrait of a mother you silenced." Carter's face hardened. The charm drained out of him, replaced with cold calculation. "Do you know what you're risking?" he said slowly. "Everything we've built. The Vexley name." "I don't care about the name," she snapped. "I care about what you did to her. What you did to me." He stepped forward again, but Sloane stood her ground. "I remember it now," she whispered. "I remember her scream. I remember the crash. You made me forget. You buried it." Her voice cracked, eyes filling with tears. "You took my mother from me." For the first time, Carter didn't respond. He just stood there, silent, staring, because he knew she was right. The next morning, Sloane sat alone in her penthouse. A single suitcase sat by the door. She had made her decision. She called her publicist, her legal team, and the board of Vexley Enterprises. At 11 a.m., she stood before the press in a black suit. No makeup, no designer jewelry, no mask, just truth. "Good." "Morning," she began, her voice trembling but sure. "My name is Sloane Vexley, and I am here to tell you everything." Cameras flashed. Reporters leaned in. For years, I have been the public face of the Vexley brand. But behind the glamour was a darkness I didn't understand until recently. She took a deep breath. "My mother, Trina Vexley, did not die in a car accident. She was silenced because she tried to protect me." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "My father, Carter Vexley, has built his empire through corruption, abuse, and fear. I have evidence, including a recorded confession from my mother before her death and the testimony of someone who risked her life to protect me." She paused. "I am stepping down from the Vexley Corporation. I will not be part of a legacy built on lies. I am donating my inheritance to support victims of domestic violence and those silenced by power." Gasps. Questions shouted. But Sloane didn't stop. "I am not afraid of the truth anymore, and I am not my father's daughter. Not in the ways that matter." With that, she turned and walked off the stage, leaving behind a name, a fortune, and a legacy she never chose. Remy opened the door to find Sloane standing on her Brooklyn doorstep, suitcase in hand. "I meant it," Sloane said softly. "I'm done with the penthouse, the parties, the lies." Remy stepped aside, letting her in. The tiny apartment smelled like lavender and coffee. It was messy, warm, and real. Sloane sank into the couch, tears finally spilling from her eyes. Remy sat beside her. "I still don't know who I am without all that," Sloane whispered. "You're the girl who chose truth over power," Remy said. "That's more than most ever do." The media storm raged like wildfire. Vexley heiress turns against her father. Sloane Vexley drops bombshell allegations of murder and corruption. The fall of a billionaire dynasty, betrayal, blood, and secrets. The headlines blazed across every major news outlet. Social media erupted with hashtags like Justice for Trina and Sloane Speaks. But inside Remy's tiny apartment, Sloane sat quietly in an oversized hoodie, hair tied in a loose bun, scrolling through her own fall from grace. The world was watching, but it wasn't over. Not yet. "You need to leave the country," Remy said firmly, standing by the window, pulling the curtains shut. "He's dangerous, Sloane. You've humiliated him, publicly. He won't let that slide." Sloane looked up, eyes hollow but burning with purpose. "I'm not running. I already ran for 20 years. I'm not hiding now." Remy sighed. "I'm scared for you." Sloane reached over and took her hand. "I'm scared too. But it's time someone was." Inside the Vexley boardroom, Carter Vexley stared at a silent room of gray-haired men in suits. None of them met his gaze. "You're firing me?" he barked, voice rising like thunder. The chairman adjusted his glasses. "You're being asked to resign, Carter, pending a full federal investigation. The stock has plummeted. Our investors are panicking. Your daughter's statements are lies." Carter roared. The room stayed silent. And just like that, the kingdom he built, brick by bloody brick, started to cave in. 3 days later, a knock echoed through Remy's apartment. Sloane tensed. "Stay here," she whispered, grabbing a kitchen knife. She opened the door, only to freeze. A woman stood there, wrinkled with age but tall, dignified. "And familiar." "Sloane," the woman whispered. "You don't know me, but I know you." Sloane stepped back, stunned. Who are you?" The woman's voice trembled. "My name is Mara Reeves." The world tilted on its axis. Mara sat at the small kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of peppermint tea, eyes filled with tears she'd held back for years. "I tried to save her," she said softly. "Your mother. She begged me to take you when she realized what Carter was planning. But we ran out of time." Sloane leaned forward, tears stinging her eyes. "What happened?" Mara's voice cracked. "I was drugged, locked in a trunk. When I woke up, the crash had already been staged. Trina was gone. You were gone. I thought you were dead. So did everyone. Carter made sure of it." Sloane swallowed hard. "Why now? Why come back?" Mara reached into her coat and pulled out a flash drive. "Because I have the footage." Sloane blinked. "Footage of what?" "The night Trina died. Security camera footage. He missed one. It shows everything." That evening, Sloane posted a video. Her face filled the frame. No makeup, no filter, just raw pain and purpose. "My name is Sloane Vexley," she began. "And today I'm sharing something the world wasn't meant to see." She played the footage. In the grainy video, Carter Vexley is seen dragging Trina by the arm into a private elevator. Her face is bruised. Her mouth is gagged. Then the screen cuts to the car, a luxury sedan speeding through a private tunnel. Then, the crash. Explosions. Flames. Silence. The world gasped in collective horror. Within 24 hours, the FBI raided Carter's estate. He was arrested live on national television, his hands bound, his empire collapsing behind him. He didn't speak, didn't fight, just stared at the cameras with dead eyes. The world he'd ruled now spat his name like venom. And his daughter? She watched it all from Remy's couch, trembling, not with fear, but with release. Sloan now lived in a modest brownstone in Harlem, running a non-profit called Trina's Voice, an organization helping women escape abusive relationships and silencing by powerful men. She was no longer a socialite. She was a survivor, a warrior. Her story had become a movement. Remy stood beside her every day, helping build this new life from scratch. Coffee runs, charity events, tearful nights on the fire escape. They had become family in every sense of the word. And one afternoon, as they locked up the office, Sloan stopped and looked at the setting sun. "Thank you," she said. Remy raised a brow. "For what?" "For giving me the truth," Sloan whispered. "For reminding me who I really am." Remy smiled. "You were always her daughter, Sloan. You just had to remember." That night, Sloan opened the last box from her mother's things. Inside was an old envelope addressed in Trina's handwriting, "For Sloan, when you're finally free." With shaking fingers, she opened it. Inside was a letter, faded, tear-stained, but alive. "My sweet Sloan, if you're reading this, then you finally found the truth I tried so hard to protect you from. I hope you know how much I loved you, how every breath I took was for you. I don't know what kind of woman you've become, but if you've made it here, then I know you're strong. Keep fighting, keep loving, and never let anyone silence your voice again. I'll always be with you, Mom." Sloan clutched the letter to her chest and let herself cry, not because she was broken, but because she had survived. And finally, after so many years, she was free.